Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon FXBG Public Radio or its sponsors. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Hello, and welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. We had a little bit of a snafu here at the beginning of the show, so we started a few minutes late. I hope you don't mind. I hope you can forgive us. But then again, we are providing 100% of our content here at Shock Monkey Radio behind the paywall, up on YouTube if you want to watch for some reason. We would appreciate it. And I know that a lot of you have been watching and have been listening. I know that most of you are just listeners. You just listen, and that's fine. I understand. I have a face for radio. I get it. Excuse me. But yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hope you are well. Consider becoming a patron after all this nonsense is over. We understand if you're cash strapped right now. I sure as hell am. So, but we want to provide this for free to let you know the kind of content that we do offer when we all start making money again. All right. So, I know a lot of you, I got some feedback recently saying that, a lot of you like the supervillain plots I did over the last 3 shows. And so, particularly the space aspect, I guess my show attracts the intellectually curious people like me. And so, I don't know, maybe I'll start talking about space a little bit more and such. I'm not sure. Maybe we can do a segment. We could do a segment called, I'm thinking Space Brain segment. And we can maybe clip that part from the song, the Guns N' Roses song, Night Train. Loaded like a freight train, flying like an aeroplane, feeling like a space brain one more time tonight. That's a good song. That's a love song to liquor. Yeah, Night Train by Guns N' Roses. I'll have EK look into it, see if we'd be violating any copyright by taking a little clip, and have a little a Space Brain segment where I talk about space for a little bit. Is anyone hearing you? Okay, please don't do that then. Nothing too long. Nothing. EK's talking in my ear, and it's like nothing too long, because it's just these poor people sitting here watching me listen to you, and they can't hear you. Anyway, love you, EK. But he says, yeah, I think it will probably be good. So, yeah, maybe we'll do that. But it reminds me of, look, if there's any university out there that's conducting experiments involving the effects of weightlessness on animals in space, I would be all about that. I would love to get up there with my cell phone and put a cat in 0G and watch it spaz out. You know how cats are. And if the cat was in 0G with nothing, they'd be writhing about, and I'd just take the video and become the richest YouTuber ever. I could bring up horses. Well, you don't necessarily want a horse in a spaceship, one good kick. Like dogs. You ever seen a dog in a car? Dogs in cars, they'll lose their mind. Imagine in weightlessness, what would a dog do? Oh, anyway, so maybe we could have a space segment. I don't know. But yeah, we really appreciate your feedback. Thanks for watching and listening. And yeah, tell a friend. And yeah, if you want to email me, madman@fxbgpr.com. Okay, so do you think that there's going to be a coronavirus baby boom? I do. Do you think maybe in like December and January, maybe February, there's going to be a big surge of babies being born? I really think so, because everyone's just staying at home, eating, fucking, and Netflixing. I mean, I don't know about you, but because sometimes you feel like you watched all of Netflix. Sometimes you feel like you've seen it all. And you're just like, I'd rather get laid. I understand. Shelter in place. Re-know your wife. Anyway, so speaking of Netflixing, and not getting laid, I recently rewatched The Green Hornet. The Seth Rogen movie. And watching it I didn't much like it the first time. The second time, I really appreciated it a lot more, especially considering the kind of movies that are superhero movies that are coming out now. And it's got all the ingredients. of a blockbuster film. It has all the ingredients. It's got a bromance. It's got a romantic interest, competition for that romantic interest, parties, funerals, action, comic book action. It was very comic booky action, but it was shot very well, done very well. And so, when it comes to these superhero movies, I think that the Green Hornet's going to hold up a lot better than some of these other movies over time, like Captain Marvel or Endgame. These social justice movies that are coming out, I think they're really tainting the brand and really tainting, and I guess it's good because the Green Hornet was always kind of inclusive because of Cato. And so I think that that's a good thing. So it kind of like passed muster in terms of social justice warrior nonsense. It's like, yeah, we get some brainy hot chick like Cameron Diaz in there and everything's covered. It's not offensive or anything like that. So it has all the makings of a good movie, but I think it does a good job at paying homage to the fiction that came before it, and it was really cool. I thought it was a really good movie, and it's going to hold up a lot better over time. I give it 9 of 10 of 13. Let's go with 10 of 13 stars. I've been agonizing about this rating all day. Let's go with 10 of 13 stars because I think I'll feel like it's more like a 10 2 years from now. So it's a good movie, and I didn't think that I've never seen Seth Rogen so thin, and he's still pretty, thick, and that's kind of like me if I dropped weight. It'd be cold all the time like today. Burning fat today. Anyway, so it reminded me of playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on PS2, and as you know, like I'm Grove Street Families for life. Apparently, by buying this game, it jumped me into a gang, and so now I'm part of this gang, this fictional gang. So Grove Street for life, and I'd put in work, but I'd put in work on my terms. You know how it is when you're playing PS2 back in those days. You're hanging out, you're drinking with your friends, and you die, you pass the controller. And I'd get the controller, and what I'd do is I'd go right to the clothing store. You buy clothing. I'd put on a mask and all this green outfit, and I'd become the Green Hornet. And I'd drive around Los Santos, fighting gangs with my bare hands. I'd get the tear gas sometimes, melee weapons, brass knuckles, all non-lethal forms, and so that's how I would play. And people get mad at me. It's like you're too good at being the Green Hornet. And I was like, I know I am. And that's how I played Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Playing as this gangbanger, killing gang members that aren't wearing green, which is just shows you how. The cops in Los Santos should be just like, we know somebody from Grove Street is this Green Hornet fella with these custom Green Hornet mobiles, Black Beauties, that is going around killing all these ballers. What were the other gang? I forget the name of that gang. The yellow bandana guys. I forget the name of them. Anyway, and so when I was watching Green Hornet, I was thinking about those days playing San Andreas, and I dug it out. I might play it later. I don't know, because I don't have to edit video tonight because we're giving you all this content for free. I know that like a lot of you think that the clips on YouTube are better, but you got to understand, most of the people who enjoy this show enjoy it audioly, in an audio way, in an oral way, maybe in an oral way. And so I got to cater to them more. I have gotten some feedback saying, cater to the people who listen more. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, Green Hornet, 9 of 13 stars. So I had a dream. I was playing Atari, and so I wanted to talk about my Atari 2600. And I think this is like the mid 80s. I want to say 80, somewhere between 84 and 86. I got my Atari. I was living in Petersburg. That's in Virginia. I was living in Petersburg, and my father's parents came down, bearing gifts for Christmas. Excuse me. And that Christmas, I got the Atari 2600. And it was the big deck one, the original big deck one. And I think I had 3 games. I think it was Combat, of course, which is an excellent game, especially with friends. Combat, Skydiver. Skydiver was it's simply you jump out of a plane, you have to land on this spot, this little pad. That's all the game was, and it just increased in difficulty. The pad would be moving or something like that. The plane would be faster or something. You know how simple those Atari games were. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you're a millennial and you've never played an Atari game. And you should give it a shot, because it's really interesting, because you kind of had to use your imagination more. The realism in video games is kind of a double-edged sword. You know, yes, it's incredibly awesome in modern video games, but at the same time, you had to use your imagination more when you played Atari. It's just a square on a screen. Anyway, so I had this Atari 2600, and I had it at a very contemporary time. That's when a lot of kids were starting to get Atari 2600. By the way, we didn't call it a 2600 back then. We just called it Atari, because the only thing it had before that was things like a Intellivision and some computers, like early word processing type computers with 100% RAM, you know. No ROM, you had to write data to cassette tapes. But even by the time I got the Atari, I was already able to program in BASIC. I'd been using computers for a while, so I appreciated the upgrade in terms of graphics when it came to the Atari. And so, yeah, it's interesting, because I found out later that my dad and my grandpa, they went out and purchased like old, like beat up Ataris, and pieced them together to get one to work. And man, I wish I still had that thing, because I would crack it open, take a look at what's inside. I think that's a really interesting story. I wish I still had that thing. And so, yeah. But I mean, the whole thing about Atari was that, like, playing outside was still more fun back in those days. And the Atari, like, graphic, if it was a nice day, you'd rather be outside playing. I like playing war. You dress up in camo, get your plastic guns, just run through the woods with other guys and pretend to shoot each other. It was fun. We'd build forts. And it was way more fun than Kaboom. Okay, which you had to have the special controller for, the circular controller for. It was way more fun than Kaboom. All right, and then then late 80s, the NES came out. And by the late 80s, I was living down in Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia. And that's when everyone got the NES, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and everyone was playing like Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt. Those 2 games most of the time, until Legend of Zelda came out. And then when Legend of Zelda came out, it was all anybody was playing. You have no idea how a video game swept through it's like, holy cow, no one had ever seen a game that complicated. The only thing close to it was Adventure, and that's that little square on the screen I was talking about. But at that time, I didn't have an NES. I still had the Atari. And so I had the crappy video game system all of a sudden. And even though I did enjoy a lot of the games, I mean, like Missile Command, still a good game. Even when it's just as simple as on an Atari 2600, Missile Command is still a fun game to this day. Missile Command Memories. Anyway, so everyone had the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I still had the Atari 2600. And I knew that my parents weren't going to get me a Nintendo Entertainment System, so you got an Atari. And so I wrote a letter to an Atari back late 80s when their company was dying. And so the good thing was, though, is that Atari games were super cheap at this time. So I was getting a lot of games. Because, you know, they got marked down like crazy once the Nintendo came out. And so I wrote a letter to Atari saying that all you need to do to compete with Nintendo is make the cartridge longer. That way it can fit more chips or whatever you put inside the cartridge, the magic smoke you put inside the cartridge to make the game work. You'll have more room for the magic smoke. and I wrote them a letter. Never got a response. I don't expect I would have. I don't think I should have expected one at all. I was trying to help them. I mean, I didn't really want a response. I was trying to help them is to compete with Nintendo so that I could get good games on my Atari. I knew about programming. I could program in BASIC, but I knew nothing about like electrical design. What's that? Electrical engineering. Electrical engineer. You know, that didn't come till much later when I was in the Navy. Finally, I moved up to here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. FXBGPublicRadio.com, y'all. I moved up here and I got a NES like pretty soon after that. And I spent a lot of time playing Nintendo games, even on nice days. Sooner or later, I got a Sega Genesis, and I spent a lot of time playing video games instead of going out playing on nice days. So I don't know. I don't know what's better. Is an Atari better? An Atari is great on a rainy day. You know, I know that there's people out there who like retro gaming. I like retro gaming because that's the stuff I grew up with. I grew up with these games like the Commodore 64 games, the Airborne Ranger back in the Commodore 64 games. Man, that was a great game for the time. And I loved it. And I would still play it today. And it's the same thing with a lot of these Atari games. Like I'd still play Missile Command today. Those were fun games. It's undeniable. I mean, the modern games are great and intense and what's the word? Immersive. It's great to have that, but I think that there is a. I watch Angry Video Game Nerd on YouTube. I love that because he sit there to talk about these old Nintendo games and even Atari games and how hard they were in comparison to like games today. It's like in games today, you'll get awards for dying. They'll give you awards for just dying or putting in time in the game. Back then, if you couldn't beat level 2, you couldn't beat level 2 until you found a Nintendo Power or you found somebody who found a trick. You know, you're talking to somebody at school. It's like, I can't get past this one stage. It's like, oh, I used the holy water, man. And that's what was cool about it, I think. I mean, even back in the mid 80s, you know, people trying to get high scores. You know, there are people like competing and they're like, I don't believe that you did it. There'd be guys who would like leave their Atari on where it's flashing the high score so they can bring their friends over to show them the high score to prove it. And, there was even a guy who took a Polaroid of a high score for an Atari game because he thought nobody would believe him. It's not like you could just, you know, capture a screenshot and send it to your friends. Found this epic mob. Now I can get my epic mount. It was a different time, different sense of gaming, and we shouldn't lose that. I think we shouldn't lose that. Wow, I haven't even got to Rollercoasters, so I'm going to skip this Trump thing because who wants to talk about politics? Not me. He's still a dick. Let's be honest. I mean, Dan Crenshaw destroyed Bill Maher, but let's be honest. You know, Trump is a douchebag, and China is asshole. So let's not get into it. Instead, I want to talk about roller coasters. So I've been watching a lot of roller coaster videos lately, and they've been recommended to me on YouTube. Probably because I play Roller Coaster Tycoon, and every now and then I play it. And so it's never like these experience where you someone rides a roller coaster. The ones that pop up for me are like about the design and the operation of these roller coasters, and I really like that. I really like to understand that. And a lot of these guys, video channels, YouTube channels I watch, they're ride operators or they are ride operators and the like, or people who've worked in the parks. And I don't, for some reason, I like understanding the logistics of it because I tell you honestly, it's like I am impressed with roller coasters. I like roller coasters. Don't you like roller coasters? Of course you do. Of course you do. And if you don't, it's like, quit being a pussy. Ride it. Just give it a try. All right. And so, yeah, so I like these channels. Yeah, and so the content is focused on design, safety, you know, And I guess that gets recommended to me because I play Roller Coaster Tycoon every now and then. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my favorite roller coasters that I've ever been on. A while back, I think I was still in high school. I went to Sandusky, Ohio. I went to Cedar Point, and at Cedar Point, there's a roller coaster there called Magnum XL 200. I think it's still there. I don't know. This is like mid 90s, early 90s. I went there, and I rode that roller coaster, and it was the most intense. Now I've had experience on roller coasters at this point. I had been to King's Dominion. I've been to, there's some parks up in Kansas, I think I went to. Was it Kansas or West Virginia? I don't know. Yeah, there's some parks up there. When I lived up in upstate New York, I went to Great Escape Fun Park. So I've been on roller coasters before. And so, but when I went on the Magnum XL 200, that first drop, your stomach just like comes right up into your throat, and you're just like, that's usually where it goes. And then it just started going up in your head, and then it became panic. It's just, that was the most intense drop I've ever experienced. Hopefully I'll experience more as time goes on. If these parks ever reopen, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's springtime, and springtime should be the time when these amusement parks open, and they're not. And, I guess maybe I'm just missing roller coasters a little bit. Of course, here in Fredericksburg, the closest park we have is King's Dominion. And King's Dominion is a pretty good park. I do like the Rebel Yell. Is it even called the Rebel Yell anymore? I don't think it is. I think they named it something else. But, I mean, it's like, why? I mean, that's really all the Rebels had was their yell, yelling and bayonets. It was so mismatched. It was a horrible war. Anyway, but I like the Rebel Yell. I like the Grizzly. I think that's probably my favorite nearest wooden roller coaster. I do like that. I like wooden roller coasters. You like wooden roller coasters? I seem to prefer them. What's that called? The Twisted Towers? Is that any good? Email me. Let me know. I'm madman@fxbgpr.com. Let me know about your favorite roller coaster, because I'm sitting here just talking about my favorite ones. Isn't there the Shockwave over at King's Dominion? I don't like that. I don't like stand-up roller coasters for some reason. I don't know about you. Yeah, the Grizzly. Let's talk about Busch Gardens for a second. In Busch Gardens, they have Apollo's Chariot, which is it's a newer roller coaster, and it's pretty good. It's a real fun and not too intense roller coaster that pretty much anyone would enjoy riding. I highly recommend that one. But my favoriteest roller coaster is the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster has the interlocking loops, and the engineering feat that it takes alone is impressive to me. I went to Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia. I guess, I don't know, I was like 14, 15, something like that. And that was the first time I saw Loch Ness Monster. And looking at the design of that coaster, it blew my mind. It's like, it's so risky, so ballsy, and so interesting to do that. So I really do like the Loch Ness Monster down in Busch Gardens in Williamsburg. They have Apollo's Chariot, and they have a couple other ones. I think their water rides down at Busch Gardens are pretty good. Busch Gardens is pretty good. Are pretty good. Verb tense. Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to talk more about roller coasters, you like roller coasters as much as I do, you want to tell me something? Tell me, you ever ride the Rebel Yell backwards, or whatever it's called now? I rode it backwards. I loved it. I saw Petra at King's Dominion. Did you? And DC Talk. Have you seen Petra and DC Talk at King's Dominion? Email me at madman@fxbgpr.com. Dude, I was totally there too. I want to know the name of that skating rink where I went when I lived in Georgia. There was a skating rink when Nancy Reagan was doing her Say No to Drugs campaign or whatever. It's like, you signed this thing. You signed this document, this big long sheet of paper that said, you signed this document, you'll let you come in and skate for free all night or something like that. If it's a promise never to do drugs. So I got to find that roller skating rink and pay them for a night of skating, because I lied to Nancy Reagan. I don't know if I ever lived that down. Anyway, so we're about halfway through the show. So it's about time to get into the news worth knowing. Let me know when we're ready, EK. All right. Alrighty. So President Starkey says, stuff's getting better. Stuff's getting better every day. So let's get to this first news article. U.S. records lowest coronavirus-related deaths in 2 weeks. Monday marked the lowest number of coronavirus-related fatalities in the U.S. in 2 weeks, just after the number of deaths had spiked to 4,591 in a single day, according to Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. lost 1,433 people to coronavirus on April 20th, adding to the overall death toll of 42,364. It's a lot of people. I don't care what the percentage is. According to the data, nearly 93% of all U.S. deaths from the pandemic have occurred in the past 3 weeks, 44% of which have occurred over the last 7 days. But after several sharp spikes last week, the number seems to have been slowing, with the data reflecting an average of 600 less deaths than previous days. So it looks like we're on the back slope. Generally, it really depends on the community. That's the point. Is like these places that were infected first, they're going to come out the back end okay. They're going to have herd immunity, but they're going to come through the back end other than those places that haven't gotten it yet. Ooh, this is complicated. Virology. Anyway, so the news comes as several states begin cautiously plotting out plans to slowly reopen businesses as early as the end of the week. Georgia, which as of Tuesday had 19,398 cases and at least 774 deaths, will reopen gyms, hair salons, and other businesses beginning on Friday. Governor Brian Kemp, who earlier this month ordered Georgia schools to remain closed for the rest of the 2019-20 school year, said Monday that his state would expand COVID-19 testing and that hospitals were in a position to resume elective surgeries after securing necessary protective personal equipment. Quote, given the favorable data, enhanced testing, and approval of our healthcare professionals, we will allow gyms, fitness centers, bowling alleys, body art studios, barbers, cosmetologists, hair designers, nail care artists, aestheticians, I'm skipping it, somebody else, and their respective schools and massage therapists to reopen their doors on Friday. Handies are coming back, y'all. So here's the thing is that, we're getting closer to reopening, to becoming a working America again. And so it's, you got to trust President Starkey, because he says, stuff's getting better. Stuff's getting better every day. And so it's, you don't need to be worried too much, in my opinion, about this. I think fingers crossed. I think after all this is said and done, I think we're going to realize that we overreacted a little bit, and that's fine. I think it's probably better to overreact. But that being said, I mean, I know that this pandemic has touched a lot of people's lives that I know of. Thankfully, thank God, it hasn't happened to me or anyone in my family. But I know it has touched lives. These kind of numbers, it can't not touch lives. That being said, I think we're going to be okay. Don't panic out there. Don't freak out. I know a lot of you protesting, you want to face it. There's a lot of people out there who want to face it. And just to get back to work, get money in their pocket again. I understand. I'm a little bit broke this week. So please go over to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio and become a patron. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so Munich's Oktoberfest celebrations canceled amid coronavirus pandemic. Forgive me, Germans, for mispronouncing names here. Markus Söder, the governor of Bavaria, along with Dieter Reeder, Reiter. Yeah, I guess that's a real name. Dieter Reiter, the mayor of Munich, announced on Tuesday that the region's annual Oktoberfest festivities would be canceled due to the health risks posed by the coronavirus pandemic. Quote, difficult decision with Munich Mayor Dieter Reiter. Soder wrote on social media per a translated tweet. The Oktoberfest 2020 must be canceled. The risk is just too high. You can neither keep your distance there nor wear a face mask. Living with the virus means living cautiously until there is vaccine or medication. I know you got to do it, but I could still be bummed out about it. The festivities it's not like I was going. The festivities, which were scheduled to begin on September 19th and run through October 4th, would have been the 187th celebration of the beer-themed event. 187. Soder and Reeder. That sounds like a German pop group that hates Duran Duran. They appeared together at a press conference on Thursday morning to announce the news, with Soder calling it unbelievably sad, reports the Deutsche Press Agenter. Sorry, I don't know German. Reeder said that in addition to being disappointing for Germans and hopeful visitors, the decision will undoubtedly have a detrimental effect on the economy. Yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of cash from that. Some 6 million people attend Munich's Oktoberfest celebrations every year, the DPA reported, with many coming from around the globe. Foreign visitors, too, pose further risk. Yeah, it makes sense. Spreading the virus, he noted. Germany has already recorded more than 147,000 cases of coronavirus, with over 48,000 deaths as of Tuesday morning, according to Johns Hopkins. Both leaders said they hope Oktoberfest celebrations will resume as normal in 2021. We hope that next year we can make it up together. Yeah, we will, but I'm still a little bummed out. It's not like I was going or anything like that. It feels good knowing there's an Oktoberfest going on somewhere. People who love beer. That reminds me, I really need to pee. All right, so I know a lot of you are protesting out there. There's protesters out there saying, like, let us get back to work and so forth. So this is from Judge Napolitano. Damn these ads. Governor's stay-at-home orders are unconstitutional and cases won't hold up in court. I got a mustache hair sticking up my nose. Ugh. Okay. Fox News senior judicial analyst Andrew Napolitano said on Tuesday that stay-at-home orders. All right, I got one here. That stay-at-home orders from governors across the U.S. are unconstitutional because creating laws is a power delegated solely to legislatures. Quote, the government has to recognize that the rights that are in the Constitution still exist in bad times as well as good, and it has to treat people equally, Napolitano told Fox and Friends. He continued to say, if you can get in line of cars and buy a cheeseburger at McDonald's, and you can get in line of cars and express your opinion about the government. It's a good point. His comments came after an organizer of the protesting against New Jersey's coronavirus stay-at-home order was arrested. Kim Pagan of Toms River, New Jersey, was charged Friday following the small but noisy demonstration in front of the New Jersey State House in Trenton. New Jersey police accused Pagan of violating emergency stay-at-home orders issued by Governor Phil Murphy to contain the spread of coronavirus. Pagan was issued a summons and not arrested, according to the news release from State Attorney General Gerbir Gerwal. Are you sure he's not from the previous story? He sounds German. If you think emergency orders are more like guidelines than actual rules, think again. Whew. Gerwal said in a tweet on Friday. Pagan has to answer for the charge in municipal court. Violations of emergency orders constitute a disorderly person's offense, carrying a potential sentence of up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine, Gawal said. Yet the protesters gathered outside the State House as Murphy and other state officials held a media briefing about the COVID-19 pandemic inside, News 12 New Jersey reported. Quote, the only laws that we have to obey and the only laws for which we can be punished for not obeying are those enacted by the legislature. Quote, the bad news is the police are not in a position to distinguish. The good news is that once these cases are tried when the pandemic is over, there isn't a judge in the country that's going to recognize the power of the governor or a mayor to make up a law off the top of his head and to make up the punishment off the top of his head, requiring people to comply with it. That's not democracy in America, and that's not what the Constitution requires. And I think that that is 100% true. You know, a lot of these people in a pandemic, these authoritarians, that's when authoritarians try to seize power. What do you think China's doing? What do you think these social justice warriors are doing? That's when they try to seize power. You know, didn't de Blasio tell people to snitch on their neighbors for violating quarantine orders? You can't make laws like that. People should, you can, as a governor, as an executive branch, you can say, we highly recommend that you stay at home, shelter in place until all this is over. But once you start arresting people for walking hand in hand in the park, they're clearly a couple, some guy's out on a boat, out on a lake all by himself. Anyway, watch out for these authoritarians because they're really coming out right now. They're really showing the stripes. I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I hate you. You want to know who your enemies are. You don't want to stop people from talking. That's when you know that's a crazy person. That's the Shock Bucky radio guy. Who listens to him? You know where to find me. You know where to find my insanity. You can choose to ignore it or not. I'm getting a little Seinfeld. Sorry. So let's go to this next story. California man allegedly hops fence, enters closed Disney's Adventure Park. Surprised this one in Florida. An 18-year-old man will face trespassing charges after he allegedly broke into Disney's California Adventure Park on Sunday night, which was closed due to the coronavirus, reports said. Jeremiah Smith was allegedly seen by park security jumping a fence at 10:24 p.m. A public information officer for the Anaheim Police Department said, according to ABC 7. Police said they discovered Smith at 11 p.m. in a backstage construction area in the southeast section of the park near the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Can you even operate that ride alone? Anyway, following his arrest, Smith was released by police with a court appearance ticket. In court, he could face a small fine or a short jail sentence, police said. The park has been closed since mid-March, and officials plan on reopening at the end of the month. However, March 27th, officials announced the park will be closed until further notice. So here's the difference between theme parks in America and Oktoberfest in October, all right, in late September, October. Maybe Oktoberfest will still happen. It's a long time till October. And so if these Disney parks are optimistic that maybe that they can open at some point during the season, then I think that's a good thing. That's an optimistic thing. And I think that if you're the kind of place that's especially seasonal kind of place, like a theme park, you would want to consider getting as much time in as you can. It's the same with baseball. Please, even if it's like late September, please have some sort of baseball season. That people can go to stadiums again. Oh, man, no baseball. It's almost May. It's almost May. Anyway, I got 15 minutes left in 2 stories. If we end early, we end early. Anyway, so here's an interesting side effect of this pandemic. Seashells pile up on North Carolina beaches as coronavirus keeps tourists away. Tourists on the beaches of North Carolina's Outer Banks during this pandemic has created a seashell lover's dream. The lack of tourists. Okay. Cape Lookout National Seashore shared a video on Facebook showing large piles of colorful shells spread across the beach as waves splash over them. Quote, postcards from the beach. Need your beach fix? I can't go, can I? Anyway, the Park Service said, need your beach fix? The shells are usually gathered by beachgoers every spring, but the number of collectors has been sharply curtailed due to coronavirus restrictions. Some of the people who commented on the post speculated that shells could be piled about a foot high by the time visitors are allowed to visit the area again. Quote, I know some kids who would love to pick some of these, one person wrote. According to the Charlotte Observer, beaches at the Cape Lookout and Cape Hatteras national seashores in the Outer Banks are open during the pandemic to residents. But park facilities are closed, including cabins, camps, and restrooms. Dare County, which includes most of the Outer Banks, has set up roadblocks to prevent visitors from heading to the popular tourist spot. Quote, these restrictions may be inconvenient, disappointing, and have financial impacts. However, they were made in the interest of public safety to limit the spread of COVID-19, the Dare County Emergency Center said in an email to the News and Observer. As of Saturday, there are 6,198 cases of COVID-19 in North Carolina with at least 181 deaths. Not bad. Not bad. It's just an interesting side effect, you know. It's just like when those people, whoever came, was it Vikings or Spanish, whoever came into the New World, did they see a bunch of seashells piled up on the beach, or do you think the natives probably put a lot of them to use? Necklaces, drinking vessels, maybe. I bet they did. But here's the thing, is that the ocean's making trash too, and they're throwing it up on our shore. You know, people are always whining about people dump trash in the ocean, and it's like, you know, if we didn't have these psycho kids that are collecting like the old skins of mollusks, the old hides of sea crustaceans, you know, if that didn't happen, they would just pile up there. They're throwing trash onto our land. You know, there should be regulations about those crustaceans, mollusks, clams. I mean, this isn't Flintstones era, all right? That's not money anymore. All right, I got one more story, and then we may end early. All right, here we go. You know I like ending on a positive note. Georgia state senator's second chance at life after surviving coronavirus is giving plasma. Georgia State Senator Bruce Thompson nearly died from coronavirus in mid-March, but today he is donating plasma to help others. Quote, I got a second chance at life, and I want to do whatever I can to provide other people with a second chance as well, Thompson told Fox News. The North Georgia public official who represents District 14 and lives in White didn't realize how serious his condition was until he blacked out at Northside Cherokee Hospital in March 16th. Can imagine the liberals listening. Of course he lives in White. Of course he lives there. Anyway, the medical team, as well as an administrator friend at the hospital, told Thompson they weren't sure he was going to make it as he struggled to breathe. Quote, I was in tough shape, Thompson recalls, but he never felt lonely or fearful of dying, though he worried about leaving his wife of 20 plus years and his 2 children. Instead, he relied on his faith, bonded and prayed with medical staff, and trusted that his healthy lifestyle would help him quickly recover. Now, a month later, Thompson is back to running a mile a day, though his pace isn't quite what it was before. He's making strides, and he's donating his plasma to help others. Life is the most precious gift, he said, and to be able to save someone's life, I can't think of a better way than donating plasma. I'm told that potentially my plasma could save 4 lives. So here's the thing: it's like if you become infected with this, your antibodies, adapt to it, and your blood and your plasma could help people who are suffering from this. And as I mentioned last week, it's going to be us that saves us. It's not going to be a government. It's not going to be any leader, that's going to save us. It's going to be people like this Senator Thompson here, who donates his plasma to save those 4 lives. You know, they get the antibodies, maybe a week or 2 later, their body replicates those antibodies. Now their plasma could save another 4 people's lives. And that's the point, is that, you know, we help each other. You know, a more cynical way to look at it is that we farm the living for antibodies. But I mean, people willingly do this. People willingly give up their plasma. I think even EK gave plasma to his sick brother. I believe he did. And that's how we help each other. I've given blood before, and you should give blood, especially in a time like this. You know, I don't know how easy it is to give blood right now, but I mean, especially if you've been sick, you need to say, you know, is there some way that my blood, that you make it every day? You know, that's pretty much all your bones do, other than holding you up, make blood. So I mean, you could spare a little. You can spare some plasma. Your body makes it. And so why not farm the living for good antibodies to help people survive during a pandemic? Absolutely. Well, we only went 51 minutes, 45 if you count the delay here at the beginning. We had a little bit of a snafu at the beginning, like I mentioned. We need some more shows. Look into fxbgpublicradio.com. There you can find out more about the shows that we have. Check them out. We got lots of shows. And if you're in the Fredericksburg, Virginia area, and you're interested in doing a podcast, just email like admin@fxbgpr.com. I'm an owner, so you can email me at madman@fxbgpr.com. And we can see what we can hook you up with. If you're interested in advertising, our numbers are growing. I mean, I think we gained 15,000 listeners in the last year. Thank you, EK. And that's pretty damn impressive. So look into FXBG Public Radio to do a show. We have all sorts of capabilities. Like, even if you're not in Fredericksburg and you wanted to like have a show, we could do like a video chat kind of broadcast like we're doing right now during this COVID thing. I mean, the industry adapts. Look for me on Facebook, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook. Buy my books. Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's on Amazon.com. I got the Bunny Years, a memoir. I got the Ravings of a Madman. I got and the Exit 13 books. Excuse me. Look for the Exit 13, Keep Right, Merge, and Blind Corner. Those are my books. I always forget the order. Ooh, excuse me. Please go over to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron. And email me if you want to talk about something. I'm lonely. I haven't got any emails lately. Thought you guys are lonely too. Because I'm the madman and I love you.